Hey, nerdy sports fan here. We're talking Week 10 NFL action, and we have the Minnesota Vikings going down to Big D to face the Dallas Cowboys. And this is going to be a really good game to watch. But um, most people are going to associate the Vikings with their very strong defense and quarterback that can still put up gaudy numbers. But that's the description of the Cowboys to a T. Yeah. Um, Look at their defensive stats. Average yards allowed in the pass, average yards allowed in the rush, points allowed average per game. These teams are so freaking close, it's nuts. To the point where it's like 0.2 of a point difference. Like maybe 1/10 of a yard different. That sort of thing. So the Cowboys defense does not get the credit that it's due. And these teams are both very strong, but the Cowboys are just stronger. They're so much better on offense than most teams in the league, but especially the Vikings. Is Cooks great? Yes. Is he as good as Ezekiel Elliott? No. Is Adam Thielen great? Yes. Is he as good as Amari Cooper? No. Is Cousins a really good fantasy football quarterback? Yeah. Is he as good as Dak Prescott? No. Here's the difference, all right? Dallas's defense is every bit as good as the Vikings' defense. The Vikings' offense is not as good as Dallas's offense. I think the Vikings have the better coach. I think Dallas has the better players. And the difference in coaching doesn't matter as much as the difference in player personnel. So I think Dallas wins this one. I think they have a tough game, but I think they win. And looking at the spread, they're only 3-point favorites. These teams are very evenly matched. 3-point favorite is the home bump. So, neutral field, Vegas thinks they're dead even. That's what that means. I don't. I think the Cowboys are better than that. So, I will have them beating the spread. Both teams have a winning record against the spread, but with a victory for the Cowboys against the spread, that puts the Vikings to dead even after this week. In fantasy football, the major players still need to be in your lineup. The reason you draft your studs is because even in games that are tough, they do well. So Cook, Thielen, Prescott, Amari Cooper, Elliott, they all need to be in their normal position. It's the other players that you're worried about. Who's going to pick up the scraps? And the scrap player that I really like this week is Michael Gallup. Cowboys had to deal with him being injured for a chunk of the season. I think now a few weeks removed from that, he's going to be full speed again. The optimal word being speed. Guy is a burner. And with Amari Cooper on the opposite side, I just don't see the Vikings having the staff to deal with Amari Cooper and keep a burner like Gallup out of the end zone. I think he has himself a game. I think he's a 10-plus point receiver in all formats. Better in PPR, obviously, but not by much. He does most of his damage on deep balls. So he's the kind of guy that gets 4-5 catches at best, but turns it into 150 yards and a touchdown. So I like Michael Gallup for this game, matchup-wise. I like Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper just as much as I do any other game. Same with Ezekiel Elliott. I like Thielen and Cook the same as I do any other game. I don't like Cousins in this matchup. I don't like him as a person, but that doesn't have anything to do with the football side of things. I just think that Dallas' defense is good enough to deal with him. And he's not a tough mindset kind of guy. If he gets any real resistance and he gets enough shots on him by this talented defensive line, he's going to start phoning it in, throwing the ball out earlier than it needs to, like he did earlier in the season when he got his ass chewed by his top receivers. Yeah, I think the Vikings needed to win last week. They could have, should have, didn't. And now that they're going to Big D, they're against stronger competition than what they had in the Chiefs without Pat Mahomes. So that's not going to be a recipe for success. I think the Cowboys win this. Again, it's going to be a tougher game, but the Cowboys win and they beat the spread. Hit up the rest of the videos I have for more fantasy football advice, and check out the Nerdy Sports Fan Weekly for an updated power ranking.